The golden age of piracy, stretching from the late 1600s to the early 1700s, was a time when the seas were ruled by notorious pirates, many of whom became legends in their own right. Pirate captains, with their fearsome reputations, were the leaders of these rogue crews, leading attacks on merchant ships, towns, and even entire fleets. But behind their bravado, their success, and their treasure, these captains often held dark secrets, betrayals, hidden motives, and choices that would eventually lead to their tragic downfalls. The power struggles among pirate crews. Pirate crews were far from harmonious. While pirate ships were often democratic, with crew members voting on decisions like which ships to plunder and how to divide the loot, the role of the captain was still one of immense power. However, this power was always under threat. Pirate captains were not absolute rulers. They depended on the loyalty of their crews to maintain their command. Yet, this loyalty was often fragile and easily broken, leading to mutiny and betrayal. As the golden age of piracy drew on, pirate captains had to navigate an intricate web of loyalty, ambition, and betrayal. Discontent with leadership could grow quickly, and mutiny, the act of overthrowing a captain, was a constant threat. This tension often led to dark secrets hidden behind closed doors. Pirates weren't just battling the navies of the world, they were also fighting within their own ranks. Famous pirate captains and their hidden secrets. Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, is perhaps the most infamous pirate in history. His ruthless tactics, fearsome appearance, and incredible ability to evade capture made him a legend in his own time. However, Blackbeard's reign was not without its dark secrets. Blackbeard was known for his brutal acts of violence, but he also employed psychological tactics that struck terror into the hearts of his enemies. His trademark long black beard was often tied with slow-burning fuses, making it appear as though smoke was constantly coming from his face. But his reputation for cruelty was not without consequence. Blackbeard's own crew began to distrust him, particularly as his need for power and control escalated. One of the most chilling aspects of Blackbeard's leadership was his willingness to make ruthless decisions when it came to maintaining his power. In one notorious event, Blackbeard executed members of his crew who were suspected of plotting mutiny. His actions, though effective in keeping his ship's loyalty, also led to dissent among his crew. His downfall came when the British Navy launched a final assault on his ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, killing him in a bloody battle off the coast of North Carolina. His decapitated head was displayed as a grim reminder of the consequences of betrayal. Calico Jack, a pirate of betrayal. Another notorious pirate captain whose life was marked by betrayal was Calico Jack. Known for his flamboyant style and his romantic involvement with the infamous pirate Anne Bonny, Rackham's career as a pirate was both legendary and tragic. Rackham was a captain who operated with a sense of freedom and rebellion, but he was also plagued by issues of loyalty and control within his crew. Rackham's most significant betrayal came at the hands of his own men. After a successful raid, his crew became increasingly dissatisfied with the lack of spoils and poor leadership. In the end, Calico Jack's crew mutinied against him, and they handed him over to the British Navy. When he was captured, Rackham's execution was swift and brutal. His final moments were marked by a public hanging, but it wasn't just his betrayal by his crew that led to his end. Rackham's lack of decisiveness and failure to maintain control over his men sealed his fate. Despite his tragic end, Calico Jack remains an iconic figure in pirate lore. His betrayal, however, serves as a warning to other captains that the line between trust and treachery is razor-thin on the high seas. Bartholomew Roberts, the captain who led with a code. Bartholomew Roberts, also known as Black Bart, was another pirate captain whose secretive nature and ruthless tactics set him apart. Unlike Blackbeard or Calico Jack, Roberts was known for his ability to maintain order among his crew and his insistence on a pirate code, a set of rules that governed behavior aboard his ships. Yet despite his code, Roberts still harbored dark secrets. He was known for his ability to stay one step ahead of the Navy, and his reputation as a master strategist made him both admired and feared. However, Roberts' success came at a high cost. His strict adherence to the pirate code was tested during moments of high tension within his ranks. As his fame grew, so did the risk of betrayal. Roberts faced several attempts on his life, including plots from his own men. Despite the loyalty he commanded, the constant threat of mutiny and betrayal loomed over his career. In the end, Roberts was killed in a battle with the British Navy, his death marking the end of his undefeated streak and the downfall of one of the most successful pirate captains in history. Betrayal and loyalty. A pirate's struggle. The stories of Blackbeard, Calico Jack, and Bartholomew Roberts serve as a testament to the fragility of loyalty in the world of piracy. While pirate captains were often respected for their leadership and feared for their tactics, they were also vulnerable to betrayal from within their own crews. The lure of wealth, power, and freedom was often too great to resist, and many pirates were willing to risk everything to claim it for themselves. But as pirate captains, they were also forced to make dark decisions to maintain their control. Some chose to execute members of their crews who betrayed them. Others resorted to violence and intimidation to keep their men loyal. For many pirate captains, the sea was both their kingdom and their prison, with the constant threat of betrayal hanging over them. As the golden age of piracy began to draw to a close, pirate captains faced increasing pressure from powerful navies determined to wipe out the pirate menace once and for all. While many pirate captains ruled with fear and cunning, their reigns would eventually come to bloody ends. Some met their fate at the hands of their own crews, while others faced execution orders from governments eager to rid the seas of piracy. The final chapters of their lives were filled with treachery, desperate battles, and the inevitable consequences of their ruthless actions. Execution orders and the collapse of pirate power. The rise of piracy was met with swift retaliation. As piracy threatened to disrupt vital trade routes, European governments, particularly the British and Spanish, began to wage war against pirates. Pirate captains, who had once terrorized merchant ships and evaded naval forces with ease, were now faced with the combined might of naval fleets. The British Navy, in particular, became a formidable enemy to pirates. As the government cracked down on piracy, execution orders for captured pirates became increasingly common. These orders were meant not just to punish pirates, but to send a message to others who might dare to defy the crown. Pirate captains were often offered no mercy once captured, and they faced swift and brutal justice. Blackbeard's final stand. One of the most notorious pirate captains, Edward Teach, known as Blackbeard, was the embodiment of pirate terror. His reign of fear lasted for several years, but his end came suddenly and violently in 1718. As Blackbeard's power grew, so did the urgency of the British Navy to eliminate him. In a final confrontation, Lieutenant Robert Maynard of the British Navy led an assault on Blackbeard's ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, off the coast of North Carolina. Despite Blackbeard's fierce resistance and his reputation for brutality, he was killed in a bloody battle. His death was a symbolic victory for the British Navy, and the decapitation of Blackbeard's head served as a grim reminder that no pirate, no matter how feared, was beyond the reach of justice. Blackbeard's death marked the end of his reign of terror, but it also highlighted the precariousness of a pirate captain's position. For all their power, pirates like Blackbeard were always at risk of betrayal, defeat, or execution. The execution orders from the Navy ensured that piracy, despite its legendary status, would eventually be stamped out. Calico Jack Rackham, betrayal, and the gallows. Another pirate captain whose execution became part of pirate lore was Calico Jack Rackham. Known for his flamboyant style, Calico Jack was a pirate who lived for adventure, but his story ended in betrayal. In 1720, Rackham's crew was captured after a daring raid, and he was brought to trial in Jamaica. Rackham's downfall came from within his own crew. His loyalty to his crew was tested when members of his own ship, including the infamous Anne Bonny and Mary Red, were arrested and testified against him. Rackham, known for his disregard for authority, was ultimately sentenced to death by hanging. His execution was a spectacle, and his death, like Blackbeard's, sent a message to the pirate world that there was no escape from the law. His life was filled with betrayal, both from his own crew and his inability to maintain control over his ship. Despite his earlier success and his place in pirate legend, Calico Jack was hanged in 1720, his legacy tarnished by his downfall. The execution of Bartholomew Roberts. Bartholomew Roberts, known as Black Bart, was one of the most successful and feared pirates of the Golden Age. With over 400 ships captured under his command, Roberts' exploits seemed unstoppable. His fleet terrorized the seas, and his daring raids brought him wealth and fame. Yet despite his success, he couldn't escape the growing naval forces determined to stop him. Roberts's reign of piracy came to an end in 1722 when he was killed in battle with a British naval force. Roberts fought bravely to the end, but his ship, the Royal Fortune, was outmatched by the British Navy. His death marked the end of one of the most legendary pirate careers, but what made it even more tragic was that his crew was largely unprepared for the defeat. After his death, the pirates scattered, and the golden age of piracy began to decline. Roberts's death showed that no matter how powerful or strategic a pirate captain was, they could not outrun their fate. Whether it was mutiny, naval battles, or betrayal from their own ranks, pirate captains faced a grim reality. Their fame and fortune ultimately led them to their tragic ends. Pirate trials and public executions. When pirate captains were captured, they often faced public trials and executions. These trials were a spectacle, designed not only to punish the pirate, but to deter others from following in their footsteps. The public nature of these executions ensured that the fear of pirate retribution would be eradicated for good. One infamous trial was that of Stede Bonnet, known as the gentleman pirate. Bonnet was a wealthy landowner who turned to piracy after becoming disillusioned with his life. His pirate career was short-lived and filled with failure, culminating in his capture and trial in 1718. Bonnet was sentenced to death by hanging, a fate that befell many pirate captains who failed to escape the reach of the law. Despite their infamy, many pirate captains found their careers and lives ending in the same way, on the gallows, their bodies hanging as a warning to others. The British Navy's relentless pursuit of pirates, coupled with the execution orders handed down by colonial governments, ensured that the era of piracy was brought to a swift and bloody conclusion. The legacy of pirate captains. The execution of pirate captains marked the end of an era, but their legacy has lived on. Today, they are remembered as symbols of defiance and rebellion, figures who challenged the established order and lived lives filled with adventure, betrayal, and ruthless ambition. Their execution orders may have brought their reigns to a bloody end, but their stories continue to inspire and captivate us, ensuring that the names of Blackbeard, Calico Jack, Bartholomew Roberts, and others will never be forgotten. Pirates, once feared and hunted, are now legends. Their dark secrets, betrayals, and executions are part of the tapestry of pirate lore. They may have been brought down by execution orders, but their mythic status lives on, forever woven into the fabric of history.